from the News Channel 5 Network. This is OpenLine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OpenLine. Hope your Monday is off to a great start and your week as well. I'm Carrie Sharp. We're here with you for the next hour. And tonight we're talking about the Legal Aid Society and any legal questions that you might have. Let me introduce you to our guest tonight, DarKenya Waller, who is the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society. DarKenya, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to. Just to start us off, introduce yourself to our audience so they know a little bit about you and how you got into this profession.
Well, sure. Again, my name is DarKenya Waller. I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands. We are Tennessee's largest nonprofit law firm, and that's exactly what we are. We're not a governmental entity. We are a nonprofit organization that employs staff attorneys to offer free civil legal services. I was born in Buffalo, New York, actually, but grew up for the most part in Jackson, Mississippi. Grew up there, went to undergraduate at Jackson State University and received my law degree from the University of Mississippi School of Law. Went from there and received a Master's of Business Administration from Belhaven University, and then kind of launched into my legal career, which included some entrepreneurial efforts, but then ultimately landing here in Nashville, Tennessee, working with the Legal Aid Society since 2008. I came in as a staff attorney, but then became the executive director in 2018, and so I've been in this role since then, but had the pleasure of practicing law and learning from some of the best here at Legal Aid Society for over 10 years here.
You know, I'm sure a lot of people have heard Legal Aid Society, but they may not know exactly what you all do. Can you explain that for us?
Absolutely. And no matter how many places I speak, no matter how many places I go, there's always someone who says, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had known about you a long time ago." And it's unfortunate because we do our best efforts to get the word out, but a lot of times you don't know you need us until you do. And you know, that's when you wish that you knew about us. But as I stated earlier, we offer free civil legal services to low-income people and vulnerable people. And I distinguish civil because a lot of times people hear, you know, you have a right to an attorney if you can't afford one, you know, Miranda right. You know, normally when you hear that, it's, I don't know, Law and Order SVU or something like that. Somebody's head is getting ducked into the back of a, you know, police car. And they're getting these rights, and you hear that you have a right to an attorney. Well, the fact of the matter is you have a right to an attorney in criminal matters. You don't have a right to an attorney in a civil matter. And the difference, of course, between civil and criminal is whether or not a loss of liberty is involved. If we're talking about going to jail, losing your liberty, you have a right to an attorney. But in America, unfortunately, there is no legal right to an attorney if you're being evicted from your home, if you are the victim of domestic violence who's trying to get out of an abusive relationship, if you're a senior citizen whose, you know, caregiver is taking their, not taking care of them the way they promised. None of those is there a right to an attorney. And that's where we get involved. That's where the Legal Aid Society comes into play. I often tell people that we're basically a bunch of lawyers who got together and said, you know, it's a shame that just because you can't afford an attorney in a civil case, you can't have one. And we said we should do something about that. And so that's what we do. Now, that goes into several layers, but as a overall picture, that's what we do. And we do it absolutely free. We do not charge a dime for our services.
So it brings up the question, who is paying you? Where does the money come from?
Right, yeah. So yes, we receive our funding like other nonprofits from donations and from grants. A significant part of my job is to share with people the work that we do, and hopefully to encourage them to donate to our organization. That being said, our largest funder, however, is the Legal Services Corporation, or LSC, and I'll probably refer to LSC throughout the programming today. But LSC is LSC is the entity to which the federal government does give some funding to offer free legal services to persons who cannot afford an attorney in civil cases. That funding source makes up approximately 38 to 42% of our budget, depending on the year. But obviously that's not the majority of our budget. And so some portions come from the state, some portions come from individual donations, some portions come from foundations and grants, where we actually write grants to receive those funds. But you'd be surprised how many people just, even clients who will just donate. They recognize what we're able to offer and are compelled to assist.
It's amazing. I do want to press pause real quick and just remind our viewers the number is on the bottom of the screen. If you have a civil matter that you have questions about, would it be appropriate to reach out to Legal Aid Society? Go ahead and give us a call tonight. DarKenya will help to answer that or point you in the right direction. So the number is 615-737+. As soon as we get some callers lined up, we will take those. But in the meantime, I'd like to ask a few questions. You mentioned the judicial system, and I know that I covered the criminal side of it as a reporter for many, many, many years. And whether it's criminal or civil, walking into a courtroom can be very intimidating. And, our law says equal justice for all, and sometimes that is just not the case.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And it's unfortunate, but that is the truth. The amount of legal services that we are able to offer is limited, and even on the criminal side, which you spoke about, they are required to take every case. However, even they are overwhelmed, and have to cry uncle.
Talking about public defenders, yeah.
Absolutely, under the burden of it. Older study, I guess it was maybe 2017 or 18, of the Legal Services Corporation, a study showed that 86% of the people who actually voiced that they needed assistance, 86% either got no assistance or inadequate legal assistance for their need, 86%. And that was then. Obviously, the effects of the pandemic have exacerbated even that. But it is the harsh reality that everyone does not get an attorney. Everyone does not get adequate assistance going into the courtroom. And so organizations like the Legal Aid Society work hard to cover that gap.
I wonder what kind of cases you're seeing most of right now.
Well, the largest amount of cases has always been in the family law arena. That's roughly 1/3 of our case work is in the family law arena. That can be from orders of protections to divorces to child support, child custody, adoptions, guardianships. All of that falls into that category. And that's just always been the case, not only with our legal aid, but nationwide. But beyond that, as you can imagine, particularly with the effects of the pandemic, what we are seeing in vast amounts is issues around housing, issues around being able to keep and maintain housing, and not just housing, but also affordable housing beyond just, the idea of having somewhere to lay your head. It's definitely been a spike in that for us.
I want to circle back to that in just a second, but first, Mary is on the line, our first caller of the night. We always appreciate someone breaking the ice. Mary, go ahead with your comment or question.
I'm calling to get information on how I may get a deposit that I paid on the rental of a house. I tried to get it from the person from whom I was renting, and that was to no avail.
Right.
Let's ask DarKenya, is that something that you all handle?
Absolutely, it is.
What you say?
I'm sorry?
Mary, I'm going to put you on hold so you can listen to your TV. It's easier like that, but listen to DarKenya because she has an answer for you, okay? So listen to your TV now. DarKenya,
Yes,
go ahead.
That is a challenge, and it's one of the things that, yes, we do fight against, because often there is a power dynamic, a power imbalance between a tenant and a landlord. Not always, because a lot of landlords are, don't have resources just like the tenants, but more often than not, there is a power imbalance where, the tenant is not often in a position to fight, for the funds that they may be entitled. We actually have a pamphlet, and it's one of many pamphlets that we have on our website at www.las.org, and that stands for Legal Aid Society. So las.org. But we have several self-help brochures and pamphlets to help guide people to, certain things that they may be able to handle on their own. And that's assuming we don't have staff or ability to help them directly. But when it comes to deposits, oftentimes it does require you to go to court and to fight for it. But in General Sessions Court, you actually do have an opportunity to fight for things like that. You can go to your local General Sessions Court if you're in Davidson County. That's the A.A. Birch building. And you can actually file on your own a suit against whomever it is retaining the funds that you feel you're entitled to. And there's filing fees, and there's affidavit of indigency if you cannot afford the filing fee. That you can file to show your income, and you may be able to have those filing fees waived. But you can go to court, you put that amount down that you believe that you're owed, and then you can actually get a court date, go to court, and argue your side. Obviously, you want to bring all the evidence you have, all the backup information, and you can actually advocate for yourself. Again, the Legal Aid Society is available. That is a service that we offer. And in terms of how we handle that internally, we honestly do it based on priority, need, urgency, and assuming that person is eligible for our services, meaning that they don't have the funds to afford an attorney themselves.
How do you determine that?
Well, our general guidelines are 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. And just as a practical matter, a household of one would be $16,100 per year, or $1,342 per year, which is around minimum wage, basically, a little bit over minimum wage. But we go from 125% of federal poverty guidelines up to 200%. If you're close to that 200%, then you'd have to have some factors that we'll consider that may that may discount your income, meaning the cost of childcare or transportation to a job or medical expenses, things like that. But that's our range of income for eligibility.
Okay, we've covered a lot of information so far. We're 13 minutes in the show. We've got a lot more to discuss. We're also taking your phone calls. So if, like Mary, you have some questions on what can you do on a civil matter, go ahead and give us a call tonight. You can do that in the break, 615-737+. We'll be right back.